Is towing with an A-frame legal? Are you allowed to tow in the EU? What about gross train weight? How do you know what you're allowed to do, what not allowed to do? If you want to know about towing with your motorhome or campervan, keep watching. I've got the answers here for you. Hi, I'm Kat and welcome to Wandering Bird, where we share tips and tricks for motorhoming and van life. If you're new to the channel, hi, welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about towing in Europe with a motorhome or a campervan. Now, there are lots of people, when you first get into motorhoming or campervanning, particularly if you have come from a caravan lifestyle where you talk about towing an extra vehicle with you. And I completely understand the appeal. After all, when you're camped up on a campsite, you've got all your outdoor furniture, you're awning out, and then you realize you either need to pop to the shops or you want to go and explore somewhere, you've got to pack all that away when you have only got a van, unless you've got something like a drive away awning or something like that. Now, I totally accept what a faff all that is, and I actually toured around Europe with motorbikes on the back of the motorhome for several years, so I've got a fair bit of experience with towing, the pros and the cons. Now, I'm going to split this video into two parts: towing in the UK and towing in mainland Europe, or the EU if you're feeling pedantic. So let's start with the UK, and there are 5 things that you need to be aware of when you want to tow with a motorhome or a campervan in the UK. First of those is your gross train weight. Your gross train weight is the maximum weight that your motorhome is allowed to A, weigh, and then B, pull. And that is the total weight of your motorhome and whatever it is that you are towing. So in order to know what your gross train weight is, you need to know the weight of your motorhome in reality. So that includes any fuel, any water, any passengers, any pets, all of your gear, what your van actually weighs. And the only way that you are ever going to know this is to take it to a proper weigh bridge and get it weighed once it's all packed up and ready to go. So that's the first thing that you're going to need to do, is find out what your vehicle actually weighs. Then the second thing that you need to do is find out exactly what your trailer or tow car or towing vehicle weighs. So again, you need to take it to a weigh bridge. If it's on a trailer, if you've got 2 motorbikes, you want to put them on a trailer, weigh it when it's all up and done and strapped in and everything, so you get an exact weight of what that trailer weighs. And then similarly, if you've got a tow car with an A-frame, anything like that, you want to put all of that on the weigh bridge with anything else that might be in the car, if you're going to take any extras and store them in the car whilst you're traveling, so you've got the full weight of that. Then you literally add the weight of your van and the weight of whatever you're towing together. That is your gross train weight. Now, the important thing is to make sure that that is then legal. Your motorhome will have a maximum gross train weight that it is allowed to pull. You can often find that on the plaque on the inside of your motorhome door. Alternatively, it could be in your paperwork, it might be in your motorhome manual. Somewhere around will be something that tells you what your maximum GTW, gross train weight, is that you are allowed. I want to be really clear here. Gross train weight is not the same thing as payload. It's not how much stuff you are legally allowed to put in your vehicle. It's how much your vehicle actually weighs plus the trailer or whatever you're towing as well. That's the gross train, the entire thing, not how much payload you've got. Now, the law actually changed in December 2021, and it now states that if you passed your driving test after 1997, you can tow a trailer up to 3.5 tons, providing you're still within your gross train weight of the towing vehicle. So it means that people like me who have got what I call a baby driving license, I don't have all the grandfather rights on my license, I can now tow a trailer of 3.5 tons behind my car, my motorhome, whatever. But of course, if the motorhome's GTW is, say, 5 tons, and I have a trailer of 3.5 tons, the motorhome is only allowed to weigh 1.5 tons, which is obviously not going to happen. So you still need to make sure you are below the GTW for your insurance purposes. But the increase on what you are now allowed to tow has helped a lot. Other considerations that you need to look at on your vehicle is it actually capable of towing? I know when we were looking to buy motorhomes, some of them didn't have the right chassis to be able to fit a tow bar to in order to pull a trailer to pull the motorbikes. So you need to be careful if you are buying a motorhome or a camper van and you want it to be able to tow a second vehicle or vehicles or trailer, that it is actually able to do that. Make sure that you check that with the dealer before you purchase. And when you fit a tow bar, get it done by a reputable dealer and make sure that it has got any EU standards or numbers that might be needed to comply with EU rules. Now, towing mirrors are not typically needed for motorhomes or campervans like they are in caravans. The reason you need them on a caravan is because the caravan is often wider than the car, the towing vehicle. If you have a trailer that is wider than your motorhome or a campervan, then you will need to fit towing mirrors, and I think it's £1,000 fine if you don't have those fitted. But like I say, for most motorhomes and campervan owners, a car or a trailer with bikes on won't be wider than the base vehicle that you're towing with, so it's not the same as caravans. And of course, you need to make sure that you have a number plate that matches your motorhome or whatever you're towing with, that you then put on the back of the trailer. That's really important, really easy to forget, especially if you have a trailer that goes between various vehicles. But make sure you don't forget and that you have the number plate properly fitted and lit and everything else. Now, a few common questions that I always get about towing. Does towing with a motorhome make it harder? Yes, in a lot of ways. Yeah, it makes it harder to park. A lot of campsites don't have bays long enough, so you need to take the trailer or your tow car off before you can park on a campsite, which is a bit of a faff. And yes, it can be harder when you're parking in places like restaurants or supermarkets. Often getting that turning circle with a much longer vehicle can be far, far more difficult. So those are things to bear in mind. When you're actually towing, it can be a little bit less fuel efficient. Obviously you're heavier, you're going to be using more fuel, but actually driving down a motorway or something like that isn't much more difficult because the tow vehicle, the motorhome, is so much heavier than the trailer. Often with a car and a caravan, it's a lot more balanced, and so that can make it much more difficult. But with a motorhome pulling a small car or trailer, you don't get that kind of imbalance. When you've got a trailer or tow car fitted, how do you find places to park? Well, the same way that you do when you don't have a trailer or tow car fitted. All the same things work. The only thing you need to remember is obviously the length of your vehicle, and there are some places, especially in Europe, like Airs, where you just physically can't get into with a longer vehicle. If you are going to Europe, make sure you use an app called Camper Contact. I really liked that. When we had a 7.8 metre motorhome and a 2.3 metre trailer with pretty much 10 metres, a lot of the Airs and smaller campsites couldn't accommodate us. So using the Camper Contact app, you can actually filter the results for the length of your vehicle or the length of your train, which allows you to find places a lot easier that you can get into. Which leads us nicely into towing with a vehicle in Europe, and particularly in the EU. Now, I'm going to go at this from the basis of you being a UK resident with a UK vehicle that you are then touring, not moving to live over permanently or anything like that. Now, all of the things that I have mentioned above already apply. Your vehicle's got to be legal, you've got to have your number plate, you've got to have towing mirrors fitted if you need them. A couple of things extra that you need to consider. Firstly, angle more stickers. If you're over 3.5 tons, which you possibly will be if you're towing, you need to make sure you have the appropriate angle more stickers on in front. And then secondly is speed stickers. If you are over a certain weight, heading into countries in the EU, you'll need speed stickers on the back of your vehicle or trailer. So make sure you look those up and get those fitted appropriately. Lastly, you'll need to look into a green card. Now, you don't need green cards for your actual base vehicle, motorhome or campervan in the EU, but you will possibly need it for your trailer. So that's a question for your insurer. Most people do need one, so they can just send you one once you know you're going to take your trailer into the EU. You also need to make sure that you have the logbook, your car or your motorbikes, as well as for your motorhome or campervan as well. And now a question that I get asked so many times: is towing with an A-frame legal in Europe? So here's the deal. Yes, you can tow with an A-frame in the UK. It's legal, it's fine, as long as your vehicle and the tow vehicle are legal in all the other respects. Towing with an A-frame is absolutely fine in the UK. There used to be a law that countries in the EU, if the vehicles were legal in the home country, it was then legal in all the other countries within the EU, which meant that you could take a motorhome pulling a car using an A-frame across the EU without any issue at all. Spoiler, we're no longer in the EU, so that law no longer applies. That right, if you like, no longer applies. Problem with many countries in the EU, France being a particular example, is that they do not allow A-frames for anything other than short-term recovery vehicles, which means that if your vehicle breaks down, they could use an A-frame to take it to a garage or something like that. But for long-term touring or long-term towing, they don't allow it. And this is what's leading to an awful lot of confusion. There are people who have toured Europe for years using an A-frame without any issues and are now getting stopped, and we're like, well, why? It's never been an issue. That's the problem. That's what's changed. We've left the EU, and they are now clamping down on vehicles that are towing with A-frames, particularly British vehicles, but hey, that's political and we're steering far, far away from that. Now, I know plenty of people are still doing it. They're still having amazing holidays with their motorhomes, towing a car using an A-frame, and aren't having any issues at all. That's fine. That's your decision. You do whatever you want to. But legally, if you want to avoid the possibility of being stopped and being told that you have to not use an A-frame, you're going to want to put your car on a proper approved trailer and tow it that way. That's the facts as they stand. What you choose to do with that information is entirely up to you. I hope that helped. If it did, a thumbs up is always very much appreciated. If you're new to the channel and you want more tips for motorhoming and van life, feel free to subscribe. And don't forget to grab your free Europe touring checklist, which has got all the gear and things that you need to know and think about before you actually go across to Europe. If you do want some more tips for touring in Europe, this is the video to watch next. Thanks as always for your time, and I'll see you there. Take care. Bye.